As a parent, what is the most heartbreaking thing your son/daughter has done with you? My son had cancer a few years ago at age 4. After his initial operation he was in the recovery room hooked up to all the monitors. He had been intubated during surgery and was still half asleep with his eyes closed when I held his hand and he said in the tiniest raspy voice, "Daddy, please take me home." This is the worst thing I've ever heard, oh my god. My kids were trying to get me to say who I loved more, and I tried to help them understand why I couldn't answer by saying, "That's like me asking who you love more, me or mommy." My daughter dead but looked me right in the eye and said, "We love mommy more," paused, almost as if for effect, and added, "Way more." It was more funny than heartbreaking, but dang girl. When my daughter was 2 she said to me, "I love mommy a little, I love you a lottle." My daughter just turned 5 and asked me for real makeup. I asked her why she wanted it because I don't wear any unless it's like a special occasion, and she said to feel beautiful. Apparently the girls in her class told her she wasn't. Now it's part of affirmations. I can do anything. I am beautiful. No kid should have to worry about that. Broke my heart. School time is absolutely vicious for little girls trying to fit in. That's a rough road. When her mum left and I hadn't seen her in months, I was in tears, but my daughter was like nothing had happened. Absolutely broke me. My son is almost 2. He's at the age where he wants to be right in the middle of everything I'm doing. It's endearing up to the point that he starts running off with my tools or bits of what I'm working on. The most recent occasion was excessive. Every tool I set down disappeared and I'd have to chase him down. Finally I made him look me in the eye and told him no. I fussed at him for maybe 2 minutes straight. When I was done he just leaned in and hugged me. Totally made me feel like an butt. At least he responded well to the talking to, and will probably learn the difference between work time and playtime. So but or not, seems like a good parent move. Our cat died last August. In December we had a miscarriage. When I told my kids that the baby died they started laughing and cheering. Now Francis, the cat, is not alone anymore and has someone to play. God bless the innocence ignorance of a child. My condolences. My son in kindergarten needed to take money to buy toys at school for a fundraiser. I explained how to pay and get change, and I gave him $5. He was really nervous about doing it wrong because he knew money was important. I said, "Relax, it will be easy," and he burst out crying and said, "It's not easy when you're just a little boy," and I felt that it summed up all the vulnerabilities of being a little dude trying to learn how the world works. Still makes me laugh, cry a little. You see, I'm very small and only have 5 money, so you can imagine the stress I'm under. With me, buried her mother, who died of cancer. The hardest part was telling her mommy was going to die. To me, grew up. I miss my daughters being at the fun ages. Crap, that's brutal. Sometimes can life just be a jerk? My son, 11, once broke down crying at bedtime. It took me a very long time to convince him to tell what's wrong. He said, "I always feel I'm not enough. I still have so many things I don't know or can't do. I'm doing everything wrong." What happened before his breakdown? I told him he had to get faster at bedtime because it usually takes him half an hour to get ready because he always has his head in the clouds. Reminded me to be more patient with him. Poor little dude. At least he was honest and comfortable talking with you about things like this. Growing up there was no chance I'd ever feel comfortable saying something like that. About 15 months ago I had to hold my then almost 6-year-old as we went into this little room at the funeral home. I held her in my arms while we looked at her mom, my wife, for the last time. I didn't know if I should have taken her in there or not, but looking back I'm glad I did. I think her and I both needed to be able to see her one last time and say bye. The next day my little girl and I sat there as they lowered her into the ground. It's been amazing to see just how much hurt and suffering a little family can go through when they lose mom. We miss her every day and we go the cemetery often. They say time is supposed to help, but so far no help in sight. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I was talking to my daughter about her needing to keep her room clean. She will be 7 in a couple weeks. After a bit she just broke down crying and said, "I'm not normal. I'm so dumb." It broke my heart to hear her say that. Please remind her that it's okay to be a child. My best friend of over 20 years was my daughter's godmother. Fairy godmother as my daughter called her. We were all very close. We saw her multiple times a week. BC she was like my sister. She was there the day I was told I could finally try to get pregnant. Long story there. She went to appointments with me. She was waiting in the hospital after my emergency C-section. She had cancer and my daughter knew she was sick. My daughter and her still did yoga together. Dress like fairies. Read books. She taught my daughter Spanish. They were close. Then she died last year. My daughter was 3. I had to explain it to her. She understood. She asked if we could visit her though. But can I still love her, and that's what broke me. She still says she misses her all the time. Me too, kid. Me too. Please don't delete this. It's a beautiful and tragic story. I'm so sorry for your loss. Upon separating with my wife, my oldest child pulled me aside and asked, "Daddy, if you leave, who is going to protect me from mommy?" Shortly after I moved out, my son, older of 2, told me his mom said she wished they were never born. Not as scary, but I feel your pain. My older son was 5 and I was in the midst of horrible postpartum anxiety. Just a mess, but quietly trying to keep him from it. His dad has to go out of town and has a cute little "you're the man of the house. Take care of your mom" talk with him. 2 a.m. I can't sleep, anxious out of my mind, quietly trying to keep it together, and I hear him rustling about. Comes waddling into my bed, dragging his blankie and announces he's here to take care of me. Kids pick up on so much. It's really amazing. You've obviously brought up a caring boy, and that's so important. My oldest is 4. She stuns me constantly with how clever she is and how she thinks of things. She understands the idea of death due us having a couple of cats die. One day she asks if she'll go to my heaven when she dies, then tells me she wants to die before me so I'll be with her for her whole life. We both cried a whole lot. Crap, I'm tearing up just writing it. I am almost 30 and still feel the same about my parents. Just the thought of them dying before me kills me. I can think of 2 right off the top of my head. When my oldest was first born and I was watching him, I'd hold him while he slept. I'd get set up with a snack and a drink, sit in the recliner, and put his head on my shoulder. When he got old enough to walk and talk, I'd just say time for a nap, and he'd climb up and put his arms around me and go to sleep. One day, when he was around 2.5 years old, he said he'd rather sleep in his bed. I kept my cool and said, "Oh, sure, that's fine," while my heart broke. He never slept in my arms again. The other one was the last time I took my daughter trick-or-treating. I was at work on Halloween talking about how I had to get home early to get ready to take her out and how it would probably be the last time she wanted me to take her. When I got home, she told me she had made arrangements to go out with her friends instead, and I realized that the previous year was the last time. Again, "Oh, sure, that's fine. You never find out it's the last time when it's happening. You always figure it out later when it's too late. I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before you actually left them." When my son was 5 or so, I was in a battle to the death with a recalcitrant tape measure, and he saw my struggles and said, "You need a hug," and I yelled back, "I don't want a hug." He ran off and I immediately thought, "What have I done?" So I chased him down and held him tight and apologized over and over again. WTF me? He was such a sweet little boy. He's 23 now and maybe not quite as sweet, but still a very good person. That tape measure was such a dong to make you do such a thing. My son is 1 as of a week ago. I have lace-up ankle boots I wear when I do project installs for work. Always requires at least 1 night's hotel stay. He's learned those boots mean I won't be home for supper and bath time. He screams if I grab my boots and tries to run off with whichever one I haven't got on yet. I was on the floor playing Legos with my youngest son, who is 4. I shifted my weight and several of my joints cracked, so I let out a groan. "Daddy, why did that happen?" my son asked. So I told him it's because I'm getting old, which is sort of a joke because I'm only 31. He then said he didn't want me to get old. When I asked why, he said something along the line of, because you die when you get old. I don't want you to die. If you die, who is going to be my daddy? Who is going to sleep upstairs with mommy? So yeah, I spent the rest of the evening quietly contemplating my own mortality because of something my 4-year-old said. My daughter is almost 7. Her dad and I split when she was a little over a year old and he's seen her twice since then. It's always just been her and I, and it's always been great. My best friends are a married couple with a 4-year-old son. We were at their house a few months back and friend said to her child, go check on daddy and see how much longer until he's ready because we have to go. And my daughter very quietly says, I wish I had a daddy to check on. I explained to her that she does have a daddy and that he just lives far away. No, I mean a daddy who actually sees me and talks to me. God, that's heartbreaking. I'm 25F, but my dad has told me the 2 worst things I ever told him and he will never forget are: 1. When I broke my arm falling off the monkey bars when I was about 6 and I asked him, why didn't you catch me? And 2. When my parents told me and my sister they were getting divorced. I took my dad off to the side and told him I don't think I can do this. I apologize profusely about those all the time now. My older brother just died. I have 3 kids and my youngest just turned 2. During this time, he could help me so much. I just want to love on him and kiss him and hold him and rock him. But he won't even let me kiss him. He will just smack me and get angry at me. All he wants is his mother right now. It just started right before he hit 2. I know he's just a baby and I don't hold it against him, but man, it sucks so bad to look at his little face and want to love him to get outright rejected by him. It's pathetic, but it hurts my feelings. Thank all of you for your comments. Things are just really hard for me right now and you have reframed things for me a bit. Thank you. My kids and I listen to sing along with a few songs every night before bed. My 10-year-old daughter chose the song Never Enough from The Greatest Showman, and she started crying during the song. Music is hugely important to me and I wanted to know what about that song moved her to tears and what she was feeling. But I just let the moment be and hugged her tighter. Oh man, that song always hits me in just the right places. It's kind of inspiring to reach out for what you can without giving up midway. My little guy is 8. He is a ball of energy at all times. It gets frustrating at times, especially with him and his brother home cyberschooling. One day he told me to take me up the road and drop me off. I'll be fine. Someone will want me. It tore my entire heart out. He is beyond loved, but we have to constantly remind him to mind his body and mind his energy. He is a good boy with an amazing heart. He loves so deeply. I hated that he felt like this. Obviously we internalized this request and changed our perspective as well as how we handle his energy. This may or may not fall under the scope of the question, but the most heartbreaking thing to happen to me and my wife was, instead of bringing our son home from the hospital, on the day he was due I was making his funeral arrangements. The DRs fricked up and we lost him 3 fricking days before he was due. So while my wife was in the hospital, I came home and disassembled his crib we just put up and everything, cause my wife didn't need to deal with that. Whoever said time heals all wounds fricking lied. My ex-wife took my 12-year-old daughter away from me by twisting her mind and blatantly making crap up. That was over a year ago and I'm still fighting to get her. When I do get to speak with her, she just spouts whatever her mother has told her and it kills me inside as I don't have any answers. I'm in the process of divorcing my physically and emotionally abusive husband. The last time I saw him he beat me in front of our 2 kids, 4 and 2. My daughter, 4, has been handling everything so well, but of course there's times where the emotions take over. I taught her a breathing exercise for when she's spiraling. Imagine your birthday cake. Take a deep breath and smell your cake, in through the nose. Now blow out your candles, out through the mouth. It helps her tremendously. There are times when I just break down crying. One day I just sat in our hallway and couldn't stop bawling. Daughter comes up to me, puts her hand on my shoulder and says, "Mommy, you need to smell your birthday cake." Broke my heart. She's so compassionate and strong. Beautiful. I love the birthday cake visual. I'm the son, but I know as a fact the most heartbreaking thing I did to my dad was not involve him in my wedding and specifically have him not sign the witness papers. I know it hurt him because he hasn't spoken to me in 4 months now. I mind you that this has broken his heart, but he abused me a ton growing up, and they live further from me than my wife's family, so it was a little unintentional to have them uninvolved. I'm specifically planning my wedding so my dad won't be there. We aren't doing anything formal, just a family get together and some vows, but I know it will hurt him a ton. But it isn't worth the drama to have him there. Unfortunately, sometimes the choices you make when you're young, even if they are forgiven, will never stop affecting you. Not me, but my mom. She shared this to me recently. My sister had trouble understanding her lessons and were quite late on submitting her requirements for online class. My mom was stressed out from work and unconsciously brought it out to my 6-year-old sister since she was the one tutoring her. Night came and as they were about to sleep, my sister whispered, "Mommy, I'm sorry, my brain doesn't work." Not my kid, but my niece rather. More of a little sister because we're not that far apart in age. One day she asked me where Grandpa, my dad, was, and had to remind her that he had passed away. She said, "Oh, I miss him," and began to kind of do that thing that kids do where they just stand in place and cry. Crap was one of the saddest moments of my life. Attended a funeral of very close family. His name was Larry and helped raise them from babies. He died quickly of cancer, and my boys had to see it when they were 6 and 7. That's young to lose someone that close. Put liquid soap on my toothbrush. I really pee them off that day. Oh man, I feel your pain. That reminds me how my mom used to pin my brothers or me down and rub a bar of soap all over our teeth if we cussed. It would get into every nook and cranny. Bleh, your comment definitely brought the taste of ivory soap back to my taster buds. My son's mother took off with him and there was a 4-year stretch of his life where I had zero contact with him. Seeing him again was one of the most heartbreaking things ever because I was there every single day of his life until he was 8 and now it feels like I'm just hanging out with a stranger. That crap hurt me so bad it's even hard to type it out. It will get better. My youngest daughter had to have a series of blood tests when she was an infant. I remember vividly a day when I took her to the hospital. She must have been about 2 years old. It took the nurse half of the day, and God knows how many injections to draw any blood from her, and she must have been in such pain. Pinned down again and again. Once the deed was finally done, I noticed that she had been quiet for a good half hour or so, all worn out from the experience. Around 10 minutes into the car journey home, she said, "Daddy?" I replied, "Yeah baby," and she just cried. But I realized she was crying because she was just too young to articulate what she meant to say. But I just knew every word of what that cry meant to say. I ended up pulling over and crying myself. Luckily she was fine, and we never needed another blood test again. I feel this one. My newborn daughter had to get another round of shots. I'm a brand new, 22-year-old dad seeing his happy and laughing baby girl transition to pain and tears with a needle in each thigh. I never had the urge to cause pain to another human being without being angry at them first until I saw someone hurt my baby girl. Yesterday morning, when I had planned to take my own life as soon as the kids went to school so they wouldn't be there to see me, my daughter, just before leaving, looked me seriously dead in the eye and said, "I love you daddy." That just about did it. I tried and failed, but those words and that smile from her are currently the only thing stopping me from doing it again. Went from utterly numb to emotional and back a lot that morning. God freaking dang you. This entire thread has been giving my heart endless kicks in the dong. But I think your one broke something inside me. My son was killed. Nothing in the world was, or has been more heartbreaking than that. I say if there is anything worse, I don't want to go through it. I would not wish this on my worst enemy. I'm so sorry. There is nothing worse. I have always had to be super careful with my wife regarding her history of sexual abuse as a child. I have been sensitive in every way I treat her and everything I say to her. My daughter at age 4 decided to make up a completely fabricated story involving me and her that triggered my wife so hard it almost ended our marriage. I love my wife, I love my daughter, but her penchant for lying almost ended everything. We went to counseling, saw child psychologists, and even had physical examinations done. It took 2 years to undo what my daughter said. Oh my god. This would be my worst nightmare. I hope things are okay now. I don't know if it's allowed here, but this is about me and my niece. Her father walked away on her and her 2-year-older sister. My parents decided to help take care of her one day since my cousin was unable, and we all fell in love with her. She used to spend a lot of time with us and we all took turns caring and teaching her whenever possible. I only wished we could have done more since eventually most of us moved away from our house and don't see her as often, but I can never forget the time when she would hug me and call me dad. We have been caring for her since she was 6 months to 3 years. She is 4 now, but we still call her and send her clothes and stuff. So this incident was entirely my fault, and there is a chance I'm going to sound like a bad parent, and I'm not totally sure this answers the question, but here it is. It was bedtime and I had sent the 2 older kids, male 5 and female 7, to brush their teeth while I changed their younger brother's diaper. Well, the 5-year-old decided that the 7-year-old was taking up too much sink, and instead of asking her to move decided full on punching her was the right response. Despite the age difference, they are the same height and he has a couple pounds on her, so it hurt. This was after an afternoon of constant fighting and not listening, and I snapped. You can ask anyone that knows me and they will all say that I'm a calm, peaceful, and usually really patient person. I might raise my voice, but I'm not a yeller. This time I did. I pulled my son out of the bathroom and yelled at him to go to his bed right now. This isn't a usual thing and his face immediately changed to terror. He turned and ran so fast he tripped and kept running. My heart immediately just broke. I waited about a minute, so I made sure I was completely calm and went to him. I pulled him out of bed and set him in my lap on the floor when he said, "Dad, you scared me. I don't like scary daddy." My heart broke again. I hugged him tight and was crying as I said I was so sorry and how I never want him to feel anything but love from me. We hugged for a while, then he laughed and said I looked funny when I cried. We got up, gathered his siblings, had a group hug, and then finished the bedtime routine. This was the only time something like this has happened, but I still feel super guilty that I was the cause of my child feeling fear. It has made me want to be a better father. I'm sure every parent has moment of this. I'm a MH assessor and people bring these moments up all the time. Times they feel they failed as a parent. I can only relate in terms of my cats, but you don't look like a bad parent. My kid lives with his dad. One day dude and I were hanging out together. We went to a bike store. Dude asked if he could call me ex-mom. I shushed that. We got the bike. He took it home to his dad's and I cried. When sitting my then 4-year-old daughter down to explain that I was moving out of the house, she was confused about it and said, "But why? Daddy, this is your home." I knew this was going to be a tough conversation, so I'd been steeling myself for it. Still sucked. Another was a few years later when she was 7. I had her for a weekend. I was in a pissy mood and while I was fumbling with the keys to my apartment, I was hissing at her even though she was just being a kid. She said, "Dad, when you're like this, it makes me feel like you don't want me around. It makes me feel like you just want to be by yourself." This one was unexpected, so time stopped for me. It was then that I knew I needed to get into therapy because I now understood that if my daughter was saying this kind of stuff to me and had the courage to say it in the first place, I did not have the tools necessary to be a good dad. So, into therapy I went, and my relationship with my kid, now 18, has never been better. Thanks for sharing this. I wish more people would get therapy when they realized they didn't have the skills they need to deal with emotions and life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.